So it looks like I've been wrong this whole time. Chapter 1134 did kind of disprove me. If you don't want to be spoiled on this, then don't watch further. So the chapter begins with Luffy thanking Saul in this weird dialect that he never uses, and it seems that he's actually trying to replicate when Jinbei joined his crew in Wano, so that's pretty cute. Saul, of course, knows who Luffy is, and he's very gracious, and he's like, I'm so glad you found these friends, like the ones he was telling Robin to go find way back when at Ohara. And Robin's like, yeah, just like you said, they're true friends, people willing to accept and protect someone like me. And that makes everyone except Luffy, Zoro, and Jinbei pretty emotional. Saul commends them for making it all the way to Elbaf, and he says him and his assistant were actually working out that prank earlier. He also says since he used to be a Marine, he knows how impressive it is to be recognized as an emperor, and Luffy's standing there all proud. Then Lilith pulls up to Saul casually, and she's like, I'm Vegapunk, and Saul's kind of confused. That's when Jinbei finally hands her one of these boxes he brought from Egghead, and he wonders what's inside of it, so she tells him that it's another one of her. But this clone is different than the satellites because it's a perfect copy. I guess Jinbei was actually contributing in Egghead this whole time. She explains that it's actually the one she used to visit Elbaf 20 years back because it's not like he could have just left Egghead. But to properly prepare this clone, I guess she needs to set up her lab, so it might take some time. Bonnie wants to know if Lilith can do the same with Kuma, and she says that's the plan. But Saul is still confused that Vegapunk is a woman, so she's going to have to explain that to him off screen. But then we see these kid giants try to interrupt what's going on, and Saul's assistant explains that she had to hold them back during this whole performance that Saul did. But we get introduced to her. Her name is Angie, and she's flexing the library. She then shows the Straw Hats the school, and this school is crazy. I guess Saul opened it 20 years back from the late King Harold's request. Saul tells Gerd and Angie to show them around the school, but he's going to take Robin to the library. So the Straw Hats split up, and then we see some of these kid giants trying to play with the Straw Hats, and Zoro's like, should I cut them up? Being completely unserious here. Some of the kids say that they're not allowed to harm humans. Luffy and the others are like, wow, that's so lame. Zoro questions, are these really the future of Elbaf's warriors, these brats? And they even tell him, oh, you can't call us brats. Usopp chimes in and he's like, aren't you guys meant to be these fearsome warriors? But they basically explain that fighting is dangerous and that's not how they were raised. Zoro notices that one of those voices was actually from an adult, and then we see this giant Ripley. I guess the Straw Hats were standing on her the whole time. But she explains all those stories about giants plundering and just being warriors were from 100 years back. She says those are now relics of a bygone era. But she tells them that she heard about them from Saul and she welcomes them to Elbaf. She explains that the motto of the beloved late King Harold was, seek to trade with nations, not wage war. Angie explains that Elbaf doesn't even have a ruler because Loki would have been the next in line, but they don't want to recognize his claim to the throne because of what he did to the late King Harold. But that's when they decide to end the history lesson and they want to show everyone around. And Ripley says to Luffy, you look kind of different. You're not in that all-white form. And Luffy has to tell her, oh, that's what I look like when I'm at my freest. She basically confirms right here that Nika is actually a legend of Elbaf from the old fables, so that's pretty cool. And then we're back to Saul's group, and Robin explains that she was kind of aware that some of the books from Ohara made it to Elbaf. Saul explains that he went back to Ohara with Hyrudian to try to save as many books as possible. But he also has to warn Robin that when she enters the library with one of these books, they're going to grow to giant proportions, and we see that right here. We get this amazing spread of the library. All of these books are giant, and it's every single one from Ohara that Saul saved. It's pretty cool. Robin flashes back to when Clover showed her the library of Ohara, and Saul is just so happy he's finally able to show her this library. Then we're back to the realm of the dead, and it seems that Loki is talking to someone on a transponder snail. I don't know how he was able to get this. Maybe his men gave it to him. But it seems he's only talking to this person because he's bored, or at least that's what he makes it out to be. But what he says right here is very interesting. He says, that moment of true fear, is that what still motivates you? The person replies, yes, even now when I think about it, I can't stop trembling. So Loki replies, it's so frustrating, we've been friends for so long, but we've never met face to face. Loki says, if I was there instead, I would have turned that place into a ruin and slaughtered the lot of them. And the person replies, no, I don't really want that. But Loki just goes off. He name drops this person. I guess their name is Mosa. And he says, you gotta stamp them out without mercy. The person replies to that and says, "You use harsh words, but there's a hint of kindness there." And that really set Loki off. He's like, "You are so creepy, don't ever use words like that to me." Mosa wants Loki to not shout, but Loki's like, "When I get these shackles off, man." They clearly have a very weird relationship. I'm not sure who this Mosa person is. It could be this silhouette that we've seen on Elbaf already a few times. Then we're shown the village where the feast is about to happen for the Straw Hats, and it seems they already kind of started drinking, but not the feast yet. And that's when this huge bolt of black lightning strikes down into the palace. This is not looking good. The giants continue partying. I guess they didn't notice this, but I feel like Luffy and Zoro definitely are going to have to notice this. We see that two figures are in this palace, and it's the same summoning circle that we saw the Gorosei use. One of these two figures looks exactly the same as Shanks did when he entered Mary Joie to talk to the Gorosei. The other one seems to be some sort of woman, we can't really tell. But this is actually insane. If this dude is Shanks' twin, let's call him Twanks, that is something that I never expected. I just did not think that Oda would do something like that, especially when in Road to Laugh-Tale, he basically said that this was Shanks in Mary Joie. But it seems he could have planned this way back when. Like we see, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but in the concept drawings of Shanks, he's called a Night Leader. So maybe this is actually Cheeks. We also see in this interview, someone asks if Shanks has a brother, and Oda just declined to respond. So maybe Oda already had the idea of stabs in place. But either way, this dude Thanks could be a powerhouse. He's definitely going to be a monster. Just think about it. Prime Shanks with both arms, trained by Holy Knights. But I think the consensus is that this dude Shanks is actually Shanks' twin brother. And when Garling said, "Watch this, kids," at God Valley, he was probably referring to both of his sons. I think this also means there could be twins of other characters out there as well, like Bogard. Remember in Chapter 0 when we saw this dude? He kind of looks like Cowboy Bogard.